Okay, so I'm back with Blessed Beth, and we're going to talk about some just incredible testimonies and success stories of clients that you've had. I just want to hear, besides my own story that I know, which I may be able to share at some point with you, but I just want to know what's some of your favorite testimonies that you've had from being able to help people as a health and wellness coach.
Thank you. So the first one that I have noted, it was a young lady. She was 19 when she came to me and just no vitality. And in my coaching, that's what I'm looking for people to resolve that in their body, the issues, so that vitality can come back. And she had a good bit of trauma. But the thing with her is she just needed some lineup in her lifestyle, like a better sleep schedule and a better diet. She was struggling with some anemia and bulimia things in her past, so that was an issue. So we just kind of looked at that. But the thing is she was not taking any supplements. Mm-hmm. And we have to supplement, you guys. I cannot stress this enough. Our food is not what it used to be 100 years ago. When you eat an apple now, it's not what an apple was 100 years ago. Yeah. So we have to supplement. And that's why you've seen this explosion of supplement companies, and they're just not all the same. So it's super important to find whole food and all of that. So anyway, I have kind of a baseline list of supplements for people. It's not a million, but it's just some basic things that our body needs. And so she was very diligent and did everything I said, plus some. She had adrenal issues going on, and so we addressed that. And literally within 3 months, she walked in my office and she was a different person. Aww. Like that light was on. I was like, there you are. She said, Beth, I feel so much better. I'm like, you look better. You look like your light's on. And she's like, I think it is. So that has just stuck with me. And she has just continued to do well. And you know what? She vapes and smokes. But I just want to throw this in, that was not what that was about. Like, we didn't need to address it. Does she need to address it? Yeah, she knows that. And I gave her some suggestions when she was ready, but we had to back way up. Yeah. And address that vitality issue, because if you try to jump into a smoking issue or a vaping issue and you don't have your light on, like, you are not going to be successful. It doesn't matter. And so she still is vaping, but we're going to hit it when it's time to hit it. But the fact is, her light is on. Like, she feels so much better and looks amazing.
I love that. And like, for example, recently my dad had massive spine surgery. And, there were people on him about quitting smoking. And I'm like, well, he's probably smoking because he hurts a lot. Yes. And this is his only stress relief. That's because, right. Because it is. And I just looked at them and I said, maybe he can stop when he's not in so much pain. And he has the willpower and the strength to fight another battle. Right. So sometimes, like you said, we have to look at what battle is the one we should fight right now and just know that God will finish the journey that he starts you on. Yes. And that's really great that Beth can come alongside of us and say, okay, you're okay. Mm-hmm. Here's what we need to focus on. And we build a solid foundation. And then upon that foundation, we can overcome anything.
Yes. So agreed.
Thank you. Okay. I'm chomping at the bit. I need to hear more.
Okay. So I have another friend and a client. She was a client of mine, and she went through a divorce. She's in her 30s. And it was rough, of course. Divorce is always rough, but hers was pretty rough. And so she hated cooking. She worked full time, and then she's newly divorced. So, it was just like a perfect storm. So she came to me because she wanted to get healthy, and she knew she needed to make lifestyle changes. She knew she needed some help in regulating the stress and dealing with the stress of her life. And so we made a plan together. She was very involved in that. I would make a suggestion. She would, banter back. Let's go back and forth and figure out something that's workable. And so we did that. And she was successful in implementing these areas of change in the food area, equally in the exercise area. That was a challenge, as many of you know. It's just a challenge to try to work out when you're working full time. It just is. But she was successful. But here's the part that I just love so much about her story. She came to me and she was like, here's all these other issues, but I am numb. I cannot feel. Makes me cry. And I said, okay. So when, part of my coaching that I mentioned before in another video is that emotional balance. That is so important, because when our emotions are stored in our body, when we're not dealing with them, or we just are overwhelmed by them, they strongly affect our health. And so I knew we got to get you feeling, sister. So there are modalities that I use that help the body. They're like homeopathic, and they help the body begin to sort of release emotions, or just bring that reality that, hey, there's something there. So it wasn't that she was afraid of feeling. She was numb. And so I want to say in month 2, so that would be initial 1 month. So in month 2 follow up, she came and I said, okay, how are the flowers feeling? That's what they're called, the homeopathic thing. And she goes, Beth, I'm feeling. Like, I'm starting to feel stuff, and it's hard, but I'm like feeling. And that was such a victory for me to see that for her. And man, I just thought, okay, sister, you're on your way. And she's just continued to progress from that point. And really, it all works together. So if a person is numb, like, it's difficult to make good decisions. You're just sort of in a survival mode. You don't know what ends up sometimes. But if you can turn those emotions back on and get everything kind of gelling together, it impacts everything. So I was just delighted to hear that.
That's really just a miracle, if we think about it, because one thing I know about emotional numbing, you can't just numb negative emotions.
Right.
When you numb, you also numb peace.
Yes.
And you numb joy, and you numb happiness, and you numb nostalgia.
Yes.
And those things that actually release dopamine.
That's right.
Serotonin.
Yep.
And these are all important to regulate memory function, decision making, sleep schedule, all of those things. And this is why it's so cool to work with both of us, because she has so many tools for emotional health. And then that prepares you for what you go through with me with emotional health. And I have a whole section of the coaching that's for emotional intelligence, but you can't really get to the root of things. I feel like it takes both of us for our different positions. And yes, you can see one or the other, and you're going to have incredible results if that's what you choose to do. But working together, we just give that power punch, double team. It's like Brandy, the B&B team. Right. B&B, BC and BC, actually.
I didn't even think about that, but right on.
I love it. That. So you've got the stored emotions. Will you explain what that means? Because I think that's a common term that's thrown around a little bit now, but what does that even mean?
Okay, I actually teach a class on this, and so what it is we store emotions in different parts of our body, primarily in our organs. And so, each organ resonates, if you will, with a certain emotion. And so when those emotions get stored from long-term, I will just say for the liver, it's typically anger and bitterness. So long-term anger in your life, you're dealing with long-term situations, that emotion gets stored in the liver and then often results in liver issues. And they can be minor or major. And so what we found is if we can get those emotions released out of the body in those certain places, healing happens so much quicker. The body turns around, and it's pretty quick, actually. And so it's like an approach, if you will, of like finding the root cause and just addressing that in the body. And so again, I teach a class on this, and it's fabulous because it's kind of a workshop style, and you just go through, it's like a grid I set up, and we literally go through top down, start with the thyroid, and we go down through every organ in the body. And then I teach just a way of release through prayer, actually, that the Lord showed me. It's not a method, but they're just some principles of release, because we don't need to methodize anything Jesus gives us, right? But it's just a process of release. And so it's very simple. And I model that and we kind of practice. And then everyone takes their stuff home and gets to work.
That's really good. And the process of releasing that
Yes.
and what's found, what is your time frame on things like that?
Well, sometimes it comes in layers.
Usually.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a walk with the Lord. Like, that is why I named my business Informed Body Healing LLC, because the Lord gave that to me because our bodies inform us of what the heck is going on. They really do. And we just need a little bit of education and a little bit of information, and then we can listen accurately to them and know what's going on. But then informed also is from the Holy Spirit, because he knows where that stuff happened. He knows the events. He knows how to get it out. He knows how to speak to our hearts like no one else can in the world. And so we partner with him, given some information, we partner with him, and it's kind of like a listening prayer model is how we do that. So stuff can leave immediately, or sometimes it's a few days, or it's a month. Process of healing, it can happen fast or slowly. It's just up to the Lord, really, and our cooperation with him.
And, of course, the Lord heals, he healed us at the cross, but we're telling our body to line up with that.
Yes.
And get in line and accept it.
Yes.
And thrive in it.
Yes. And I want to point out, if I may, sometimes this process, like in the class, especially, or with clients, because we'll talk about this with my clients, there comes to be an awareness of, gosh, I don't really value my body.
Yeah.
I don't really care about my body because I was taught to not care about it, or stuff happened to me that made me think it wasn't worth anything. And the Lord is so good in those moments, because when that surfaces, he is right there to just come in and minister. And if I'm aware of that, I know how to minister to that in the moment too, and just encourage people. And so the Lord does layers in that process. Like, it is amazing. And so we're changing mentality. Our bodies are releasing the stored emotions, and then we see it in the physical. It's just remarkable.
I love that. We have to be aware, and that's my favorite word that you just used. One of my biggest words right now is just being self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
If we start with our body and we're aware of, oh, I am feeling this, and it's okay. Because I think a lot of numbness comes from, and that means numbness towards your body in general, your emotions, your physical body, comes from fear of, okay, I'm just going to be honest. It's a backdoor control issue. Although you're not consciously trying to control, but you're afraid of your emotions that are out of control and not knowing how to control them or what to do with them. But the way that Beth helps, and the Lord through her helps us release emotions, is a gradual thing.
Yes.
It's not overwhelming. It's not, you're going to have this breakdown, which I like to call spiritual awakenings. I feel like it's more proper.
Yeah.
And true.
Yeah.
But you can start to really have that body awakening and spiritual awakening when we just listen to ourselves. And yes, it is okay to take time to listen to yourself, because how you listen to God determines how you listen to yourself and how you listen to other people. So it's really important that we develop that listening skill. Because if you encounter, this is off the cuff, but if you encounter people who are always talking, which was like all of my past, then you can actually get a feel for their relationship with God. If they're always talking when you're trying to talk, or talking over you, they're doing the same thing to God. It's just an insight into their prayer life. And the less that they talk, the more they'll get those needs met that are the reason that they're talking. Anyway, so with that being said, being aware and having Beth help you discover awareness of what's going on and how to listen to it, and then what to do with that information, will really help you for when you come to me.
Yes.
And we go into our peace our transcendent peace transformation training to keep you in that state of, okay, well, you meet with Beth and you're dying, and Beth stabilizes you, and then you start to thrive, and now you have all these emotions and all these things, and now you're awakened and your light comes on, and now you want to learn how to stay there.
Yes.
And that's when you come work with me.
Perfect.
Okay, one more success story.
Okay, one more.
Let's do
Let
it.
me look at my notes. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. So sometimes I'll have a client that comes in and man, their food is awesome. Like their diet is rocking. Their exercise is great. They have some things in place, but there's just like, I'm still fatigued, or I'm not sleeping well at night, or I just need to learn more about this whole thing of natural health. Well, I had a client that was very much like this, and she was a rock star diet person. But what I came to find out is for her, it was about the mentality of her approach on her health, particularly in the exercise area. And she had a mentality that exercise needs to be like that boot camp, intense, just driven, kill your body, make it, and all this kind of stuff. And if it wasn't like that, it didn't really equal exercise. And so what happened was, in her scenario, she was dealing with significant thyroid issues, which then made her so fatigued. So she couldn't really exercise like she really wanted to. It has been diminishing for some time up to that point. And so I just had a conversation with her and I said, you know what? We just promote fun, sweaty activity. If that's riding a bike, you don't have to be, super ninja warrior person to count for exercise. And she kind of looked at me and she's like, huh. I said, seriously. So what can you do? And so we problem solved that. I'm a solutionist. So we just get in there and talk about it. And she's like, I can walk my dog. I said, okay.
I was going to say, walk your dog.
Yes, exactly. Of course she was going to say that. And so sure enough, that next month I said, how's it going? She goes, you have no idea. This has set me free.
Oh,
like I have to say that mentality, it bleeds into every other part of your life, you all. It's, again, that Greek mindset has isolated out who we are, and we are not little compartmentalized people. We are one whole person. And so one thing influences the other. And sure enough, she's like, I am enjoying it so much. Like the pressure's off. And she said, I'm walking about 5 days a week and I'm doing like 2 miles each time. I'm like,
that's perfect.
It is so perfect. Good job. You're going to get the badge for the week. It was just a breakthrough. So you have to think about health in that it's not all about what we're eating or how much exercise we're doing. Sometimes it's a mentality. And we just need a little bit of a shift to get us into that next place. So it was a huge success because she does tend to kind of go in the perfectionist driven strive mode. And what this has done is sort of loosen that up. And she's looking at things a little bit different. Like, hey, maybe things don't have to be exactly right, exactly perfect all the time.
Which in and of itself will set you free of a lot of things.
Yes.
Like her exercise is the beginning.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. And so what we do, we have different sections. We have 5 sections of life coaching. And the first one is called fulfillment and mindset coaching.
Oh, good.
Because you can't be fulfilled if you don't recognize those strongholds. And I think what's interesting as Christians, depending on what sect of Christianity you come from or you've been involved in, I actually have a lot of clients who are like, I've been through deliverance. Why am I dealing with the same issue? And what happens is what we teach here at Fireside Grace is that you get set free. And just because you deal with an issue doesn't mean you weren't set free. You have to do the battlefield of the mind, like Joyce Meyer says.
I love her.
I just always honor Joyce in all of my videos. So I'm taking a moment for Joyce. But teaching that battlefield of the mind and learning how to stand strong and maintaining that place, all the spiritual warfare stuff. But along with that, here's what Robin and I teach. Demons, before you're delivered, go in and they set up strongholds. Well, when you kick out the demon, you still have to take down the stronghold that was created. So let's say you have someone whose mom has been a drug addict and her dad was an alcoholic, and you have these issues, and then there's you, and you're not addicted to anything except maybe people pleasing or exercise or bad things, or fill in the blank, overeating, carbs. Thank you, Jesus. So if we recognize that stronghold that was there through the generations, it doesn't mean that you're possessed. It means that we have a stronghold that has been a habit that you've been shown how to operate, and we have to tear that down so that you can see around it. A common stronghold that we see is people, just because a lot of people come to us for hearing God's voice. So when we're doing voice coaching and hearing God's voice, is there's like this boulder that's just in front of them, and they think that they have to get over it or move it, or they can't figure out how to do that to hear God's voice. It's like as if the boulder is blocking them and God is on the other side. But it's just a mindset of, he's our father. Like, he sits closer than I'm sitting with you.
Right.
And it's that mindset shift to go, okay, well, if you believe there's a boulder there, tell the boulder to move and go into the sea, and helping you walk in your authority. And it's amazing when you start using your words to say, I do hear God's voice. I do hear him clearly. I recognize when he's whispering, and you just shift your mindset on what you're doing. Then you get the fruit of what you've sown. So Beth helps you take those things in your life. So what I hear you saying is that, you could be doing really well, which we're so happy and we're so glad for you. That's exactly where we want you. But if you just want to give yourself that extra notch of upping your game for your health, or, your mind, or your fulfillment, any of those areas, then Beth can come in alongside of you. You don't have to be sick.
Right.
You don't have to have a diagnosis. You don't need to need treatment. Listen, if you just want me to be your friend and listen to you, like, we're cool with that. And we can just support you and go, hey, have you ever thought about adding this into your diet? Like alfalfa, or, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
How many whole grains are you getting? Because I think you're doing really good, but I don't see any grains in your diet. Just these little things that give you that extra push, and that extra push can really take you over the limits and meeting all the goals that you have set.
Amen.
So I want to ask you, do you treat just adults or children? And I heard you've mentioned pregnant women before. What age range do you work with?
I have worked with a 14-year-old up to 69-year-old. So really anyone. I can do children. I prefer more those teenage years because children are kind of unique, but I absolutely can address some things with them. And I often will do that if I'm dealing with a client that has children. She might mention something, so I'll just slip some suggestions in there for the kids. But then, yes, pregnancy, I love doing that. I have a soft place in my heart. I have 4 children. And the Lord is really giving me some wonderful resources in my area, but then I can access in whatever area you're in to help with a healthy pregnancy. If you want to go natural, I'm all in. If you want to still go to the hospital, I'm all in. And so that has been a blessing to be able to do a pregnancy client.
I love it. Great. So even if you're under, with the consent of a parent, underage, and you're interested in this and you don't feel good, talk to your parents and have them, or your guardian, and have them reach out to Beth for you. Or if you're older than 69,
that's
right. Age is a number.
That's right.
And that's all. Wisdom, but it's just a number too. All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.